Hi guys, I'm here today to help you break down the basis of self-control. I'll use the two psychological theories from Baumeister et al. And Inslick and Smigel. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of Baumeister in general, and that's because the scientific evidence doesn't weigh up the Baumeister one as much as Inslick and Smigel, but the Inslick and Smigel does explain the Baumeister one. It just doesn't simplify it as much as Baumeister does. And the problematic thing with simplifying self control is that you get a wrong picture of what self control is actually about and how it impacts a lot of things and how a lot of things impact self control. So, I'm going to dive down into that topic with you today so I can help you clear up some of all of this. When talking of self control, it's very important to note that I am talking about grown up individuals that have developed fully. I'm talking the brain and I'm talking the prefrontal cortex. So children and people with learning disabilities or cognitive disabilities of not having fully developed, that should be taken into account because you cannot directly extrapolate everything that I'm saying from grown up, fully developed adults till two other groups. So just bear in mind of that. Self control in Inslicht and Smigel's definition is defined as the mental ability to stop or change their thoughts, feelings, or behaviors. So, whenever you exert self control, is whenever you make a decision. The decision could be anything from what pair of socks am I going to wear today? Am I going to wear thin socks or am I going to wear thick socks because it's cold? Or what thin socks go well with my boots and my foot doesn't feel as squashed? That thing right there is a decision, and that decision includes self control. When we talk about self control, we do not talk about not being conscious of what you're doing. So if you're self-regulating, like bringing your own state back to the norm. Let's say you're cold and you're lying under a duvet and you're supposed to get up, but you don't really pay attention to the fact that you pull the duvet up over your shoulders because you're cold. Now that is an unconscious behavior that your body has chosen to do. It's bringing up the duvet to keep the warmth, to self regulate, to bring back to the norm, to be nice and warm, but you're not conscious of it. So, therefore, it's not self control because you're not making a decision whether you should remain in bed and stay warm or you should get up. Your body just did it, your arm just pulled it. So, that is not self control. That is called self regulation and it is an unconscious decision. So anything self control related is conscious. When talking about self control, there are five things that need to be in place in order for you to exert self control, and I have drawn them out here. So the first one is general motivation. If you are not motivated to change your behavior, you will not do it. Why should you do it? There is no point in using the energy, your precious energy, to change it. Now, I'm going to use the example with food because I am studying a bachelor in global health and nutrition. So that is what I mostly relate to. But you can choose any other behavior that you find easy to plot into this diagram to kind of understand it. If you look at the general motivation, let's say you want to eat less sweets, you need to be motivated to change the actual behavior. Because if you don't, as I said before, why would you? So the aim here is to eat less sweets. And I'm going to write that down so we keep it in mind. I'm going to make an arrow down and say sweets. So that means less sweets. Now, go to point number two. That is awareness. Awareness of what you're doing. Now, let's call this behavior A, that you eat a lot of sweets. Behavior A. In order for you to change that, you need to be aware that you're eating a lot of sweets. So let's say you're at the office and someone has bought cake. And here you are with a piece. Well, you've eaten the first piece, but you're about to take a second piece. Your brain, or you need to tell your brain, boom, what's going on? I'm standing here with my second piece of cake. That is being aware of the situation and the behavior you're about to carry out. You are about to eat the second piece of cake. You are now aware you're standing with the cake in your hand and you're about to eat it. We move on to step three, and that is comparing what that action you're doing now is that aligning with your values, the person you want to be, your long term goals, whatever that has meaning to you. Let's say, like we said before, you wanted to eat less sweets. That was your core value. Now, the act of eating the second piece of cake does not align with our values because we want to eat less cake. So we need to be able to identify the behavior A that we're exerting now does not align up with our values. Now we are both, if we look at motivation here, now we are motivated to change the behavior. We are aware that we're about to eat the second piece of cake, and we are aware that eating the second piece of cake does not align with our values. Now we jump on to step four, and that is the ability to identify an alternative behavior. All right, behavior B. We know that the other alternative behavior, B, putting the cake away, throwing the cake in the bin, giving the piece of cake to someone else, those three options could all be an example of behavior B. Let's say we choose to give the piece of cake to somebody else. We know that that would align with our values because now we are not eating the second piece of cake. We have become aware of our motive, or we have a general motivation to change our behavior. We are aware that we're about to eat the second piece of cake. We have now compared our values to the second piece of cake. They do not align, and we have identified an alternative behavior, i.e., giving the piece of cake to our friend. I'm going to draw another line down to behavior 5. This step 5 is crucial. Without step 5, we have tried to exert self control, but we have not succeeded. Now, step 5 is the catalyst to behavior. This is where you either change your behavior or stop the behavior. Stopping the behavior could be you don't eat the cake at all. Also, that could also be change behavior. You can use this. I mean, it depends on what kind of example you're using, but change slash stop the behavior is just telling us that we're doing something different than behavior A up here. Now, let me run through the whole diagram again. Our general motivation is we want to eat less sweets. Yes, this is the general motivation. I'm going to make an arrow up here. We have become aware that we have now chosen our second piece of cake and we're about to eat it. We compare. I want to eat less cake. That is my value. Or less sweets, rather. That's my value. I'm about to eat my second piece. That does not align. What could I do instead? I could give the piece of cake to my friend. So I've identified an alternative behavior. That is behavior B. And now step 5. I am doing the alternative behavior. So I will give that piece of cake to my friend. By giving that piece of cake to my friend, we have exerted self control and we have been successful with exerting self control because we have stopped and or we have changed the behavior. Instead of eating it ourselves, we have given it to someone else, just like we wanted. That is self control. Some psychological theories studying self control will sometimes do it by doing different tasks. One of the examples would be to have two groups and two different tasks. The first group will do a self control task, then have a break, and then do a self control task. The second group will not exert or not have a self control task, then have a break, and then do a self control task. The results from these studies most of the time come out as people in group one are less effective at using self control again the second time. Baumeister's explanation of self control is very limited, and by looking at these results, he has said that you can run out of self control. Now, that is not true and it is not incorrect. You don't necessarily, or you can't run out of self control, but it can be depleted. What gets depleted, we don't really know as of yet. We still need more studies to cover this subject, but it's important to note that yes, it can be depleted, but we can also recharge it and we can never run out. A way to combat this depletion, well, one of the simple ways, is to actually tell people that you cannot run out of self control. That somehow makes them less likely to give up and cross their arms and say, oh, well, there's nothing I can do. Because Baumeister's explanation is that when we get depleted with self control, you just have a rest. There's nothing you can do. You just wait till your stores are replenished. Whereas Instinct and Smigel say that you can do different things to combat that, and that's why we're going to talk about ego depletion. Ego depletion is a state of reduced resources that comes after the carrying out of self control exercises. When you do a lot of self control tasks in a row or throughout the entire day, it could even be like getting up, choosing what you want to wear, then choosing what kind of topping you want to put on your porridge, then getting stuck in traffic and then choosing to go another route. Stuff like that. Always making decisions, always thinking about it, and oh, what's best to do? What should I do? What shouldn't I do? That is self-control. That is decision making. When you've then done a lot of self-control exercises or tasks throughout the entire day, your brain, specifically prefrontal cortex, if you want to get technical, but you can just envision the brain. The brain will get tired because it feels depleted from doing all of these self control exercises. Then your brain tries to signal that it's in need of a break. And by doing that, which is called change in motivation, it will send out signals to your awareness saying, I need something that contains pleasure, something that's joyful, something that can bring me enjoyment, something that's funny, something that can perk me up. So if we look at food, for example, your brain says, I want something that I can enjoy. It will send out signals saying, look for cues in the environment for chocolate or anything that tastes good, anything that's fatty, anything that's salty, anything that's sweet, anything that's sugary. And your brain will start to scan the environment for these things that can help bring up the energy again. It doesn't have to be food related, it could also be if you're sitting on the computer trying to do an essay or something, your brain will start to say, "Oh, I feel depleted. My energy levels, well, no energy levels, but I am tired. I am tired from doing all of these self-control activities. Look for something fun." Your body might start to Google YouTube or might start to Google something funny or go on YouTube and find some funny videos. So this change in motivation and change in awareness is trying to satisfy a need and trying to find something that will give you what you want, or rather, give your brain what it wants. Now, when it receives the thing that it wants, let's say it's chocolate, it scanned the environment, found some chocolate, you go into the store, you purchase the chocolate, and you eat it. It feels like, I mean, you go into the store and you buy the chocolate, your brain feels a sense of relief, like you've charged the self control. I call it the self control center again, and it's not as depleted at it as it was before. So that can help increase, or that can help decrease the depletion of the brain. If you want to combat self control depletion, you can try to make the task that you're about to do fun or bring you enjoyment. If you were to go on a run and you don't enjoy that, so you pay more bills, you use more self control, then you get in your income. You could, if you like being social and talking with a friend, you could ask the friend if they wanted to come with you on the run, and then you could get an income as well. So whilst you go out for a run and you think, "Pooh, this is depleting my self-control," you still get an income because you get to be social. So instead of it being negative or positive, it sort of ends up becoming both, and you end up sort of in the middle land. This is just simplified. When you experience ego depletion, which was the thing with the shift in motivation and awareness, it also becomes more difficult to monitor the behavior that you're doing now. The very first thing that we talked about in the beginning, the 5 steps, the monitoring is being used to becoming aware of what you're actually doing. And then it's essentially the whole cycle. That's what you're using monitoring for. It becomes more difficult to remain in the here and now when you feel, well, when your brain feels depleted because you have less. I hate using the term energy, but I don't have a better term. But you cannot run out. And I don't know where they take the energy from. So I'll just use the word energy. But the brain has a harder time monitoring what you're doing, which makes you less likely to being able to carry out self-control. The brain doesn't do this because you lack motivation or because it doesn't want to do it. Your brain is just trying to signal that you need a break and that you need some enjoyment or something that can help recharge it. I promise you, it's not out to get you. It's not because you're wrong. It's not because you lack motivation. It's just trying to take care of you. And there's nothing wrong with that. I hope this cleared out some of the ideas about self control and the psychological theories about self control. If you've got any questions, you can leave them down in the comments below, and I will try my best to answer them. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Bye bye.